Hello, everyone. In this lecture, we'll first talk about the Android Studio, some basic navigation, and some basic information. Okay. So recommended reading is, the best source is Android Studio User Guide on developer.android.com/studio/intro. There are also some books available freely through the University of Utah Library. For example, Expert Android Studio by Jenner and Dunder. That's a good resource as well. But of course, with any tool, mastering Android Studio, will be will come with practice. All right. So, what is Android Studio? It's the official IDE for Android app development. You have already downloaded and installed that in your first assignment. It's based on IntelliJ IDEA, which is an industry strength Java IDE. Very feature rich, very flexible, and configurable. Configurable in the sense the developer can have different views for different kinds of files. Can quickly customize what things should be accessible at fingertips in different files and such. Okay. Yeah, it supports several superior developer tools, debugging techniques, and such. And in the context of Android, it has built-in support for all Android libraries, build systems, and testing frameworks. When you open your project, your window largely would look like this, perhaps with some differences. Let's look at different parts of this window first. So here is the main editor window in which your current active editing file is always visible and editable. You can also split it into, a vertical panes, two vertical panes or horizontal panes um, for simultaneously looking at two files while you are editing and so on. Then you have this toolbar, which has several quick shortcuts. For example, right here, the hammer is the build tool. You can build your project with that. Next, you have a drop down for which module to run. And usually it will be the top level module app, as you can see here. Next, you have a drop down for which device to run it on. So currently, for example, you see my Pixel 3 with API 30, which is an emulator, a virtual device. There, if you have multiple virtual devices or physical devices connected, they'll all show up here, and then you can choose the appropriate one to run it in. Next to that is a run button, which is the green play button, the triangle that we have on music players and all. Right now you see a rerun button. That's the symbol changed because the app is running. App was running when I took the screenshot. Similarly, there are buttons related to running and debugging. For example, the bug here is the debug. You have the profiler tool and so on. The red stop button is to stop the app running on the device. Next section is for version control. So git, commit, check-in, and such things, or pull, fetch, and such things. And then over here, you have different shortcuts for things like the SDK manager, the device manager, and so on. So yeah, this is the SDK manager, in fact, and this is the device manager. You can access all these through the menu bar as well, which is not shown here, but you go to the appropriate menu and then you see those, but there are shortcuts here nevertheless. Okay. At the bottom, you see the status bar. As you would expect, the status bar shows the several important messages, the latest important message. In fact, and if you click it, it will show a bunch of messages before that. Here, for example, it says install was successfully finished 2 minutes ago in about 4 seconds and 50 milliseconds. Over here, it talks about which line the cursor is on and the encoding and the width of a tab, etc. And then there is a pull-up menu shortcut again for Git over here. Okay. Next, we see an important and perhaps unique feature of IntelliJ-based IDEs, which is called the tool window bar. So all along these three boundaries of your editor, left, right, and bottom, you see what's called a tool window bar, and tool windows are what primarily make the IDE very customizable. So along these, you'll see um, some names. They are actually clickable buttons. So some names with an underlined number. For example, over here, where my mouse is, you see one project. If you click that, it opens the project tool window, which is this box over here. I'm going to show it in a second. If you look at this bottom tool window bar for run, if you click on that, you see this tool window and so on. So there are several of them which are numbered for shortcuts and several others which you can click and open or get to from some other place. This button at the left bottom corner is a toggle tool window bar button. You click on it fully and then the tool window bars, they appear or disappear. Once you have mastered things, this may be useful because it saves that much of screen real estate so you can focus more on the things you are doing. If you simply hover over it, it gives you a pop-up of a different tool windows that you can go to. And here is the project tool window. So a little bit about project tool window. We'll talk a little more in next few slides, but this is where you can see all your files in different views. So currently we are looking at the Android view in the project tool window, and as you can see, you can go into the Java folder and go to the appropriate file, or into the Gradle scripts and go to the appropriate script, and so on. So since the number here says 1 with underline, you have shortcuts like Command 1 on Mac and Alt 1 on Windows and Linux to open and close this project tool window quickly. Similarly, here you have the Run tool window. It shows the log messages when you're running the project. Okay, so a bit about the project tool window. So this, as I said, it shows all the files in your project, but it's arranged in different views. So this is the Android view. As you can see here at the top, it says Android, and then there is a drop down. You click on that to see the other views for the same files. So it's just a different way of organizing these files. What we see here is, app is the module, and by default, that's what you'll get when you create a project from the wizard. And then inside that, you have several submodules. So manifests, and inside that you have the Android manifest.xml. Then Java, inside that you have the package, Android samples, Java greetings, and inside that you have the main activity.java. The extension is hidden here, but we can see from other symbols that it's a Java class file. You have two other packages for testing. We'll talk about testing a little later, but you get some boilerplate code for starting to write your unit tests. So example unit test is will be useful largely for the Java-like test cases. And then example instrumented test is where you can write an instrumented test where you actually run the app and do certain button clicks and such, and then test the results. Okay. Another top level submodule is res for resources. Inside that you see drawables, layouts, and few other things. We'll talk about these later in an upcoming lecture. And like the app module, there is a Gradle scripts module, which is the build system for Android. So, the Android view is perhaps the most useful one, at least in my opinion and experience, because it's easy to go to the files from there. You should explore clicking on one of these buttons here, particularly the cogwheel, which gives another context menu, and you can move the project window around or have it in a certain place, position, mode, etc. Anyway, so another view is the project view. So here you see the Android replaced with project, and this is basically a view of how the files are on your file system on your hard drive. So we have greetings as the top level project. It's at this location on my machine, home/git/android -samples/greetings. It may be different on your machine, but the structure inside should be same. There is a .idea folder, which is not expanded here, but then there is an app folder, and inside that you have the libs folder, which doesn't contain anything, and then the source folder, which has the package main, and then Java, and then Android samples.java.greetings, and so on, as you can see. But the key difference between this and that, the Android view and the project view is Android gives you a more Android specific organized view of the same files, whereas the project view gives you how it's exactly on the hard disk. Other views are project, as we saw, a package, etc. You should explore with those from this dropdown. Inside that cogwheel here, you'll find several interesting things. As I said, one of them is enabling or disabling the compact middle packages. What that means is the Android samples.java.greetings, they are actually folders inside folders inside folders as a Java project structure goes. And if you enable compact middle packages, it will show it just like this. There is almost never any useful information or any other file at those intermediate levels. So play around with some of those. Next, we'll look at some shortcuts and quick navigations for the project tool windows. So the project window that we saw, you can get to it using Alt-1 on Windows Linux or Command-1 on Mac. The version control tool window is number 9. So you can do Alt-9 or Command-9 based on what system you have. To get to the run window, you would do Shift plus F10 on Windows and Linux, Control R on Mac, and so on. I think most of these, when the next two are kind of straightforward. Returning to the editor from a tool window, so toggling or switching between those is just done by escape. Hiding all tool windows, as we saw, it can happen with the Control Shift F12 or Command Shift F12, depending on where you are. And the small square on the left-hand side shows you this pop-up. Again, it may be different for slightly different based on how you have configured it. But you can hover over that square and then get this and quickly go to any of the tool window that you want. So basic navigation and editing in some shortcuts. You can go to recent files by doing Control E or Command E, and it gives you a pop-up of the files you have recently visited, and it's easy to switch to that file instead of looking for it in the project tool window. File structure, that is what is inside a file. Different methods or members of a Java class, for example, you can get that by Command F12 or Control F12. Navigating to a specific class or navigating to a file, these are also some useful ones. You can do Control N, Control Shift N, respectively, on Windows Linux, or Command O, Command Shift O on Mac. Current code references. So where is this function you are currently on? Where all is it used? That can be a useful query sometimes. So you can do Alt F7 or Option F7 to find that. And we can perhaps do a quick demo of this in a second. Reformatting the code, Control Alt L or Command Alt L. Finding errors or warnings using F2 and fixing those using Alt Enter or, well, it should be Opt Return. And finding quick documentation using F1. Okay, so let's quickly go to Android Studio and try some of those. So yeah, if I do, I'm on Mac, so if I do Command E, it gives me a list of files I've recently opened, and then I can switch to, say, the strings.xml, with this quick jump. I want to go back to the main activity.java. Here we are. If I look at onCreate and want to check where all this has been used or called, I did Opt F7, and it showed me here in the new pop-up window where all it has been used. Okay, we don't have a lot of meaningful code yet, but you can imagine finding where the function is called and so on very quickly. Let's do F1 to get the quick documentation on create, right? And this is clickable links. You can also go to an outside page if required. Excuse me. Yeah, and finding errors and fixing errors or warnings. So yeah, here if I do F2, it takes me to the next warning and tells me what's happening there. I can fix that using Alt Enter or Option and Return in case of Mac, and it tells me some context menu or quick fixes, and then I can pick whichever I want. Okay, yeah. So coming back here, yeah, this is just a very high-level view of some of the shortcuts for a full list. Take a look at this, a page on Android Studio's website, which will give you a full list of shortcuts. You should also talk about this navigation, which is not a shortcut necessarily, but how to jump from a class file to its corresponding XML. It will show a button like this, and you can simply jump to the corresponding Java file and vice versa, the corresponding XML file, both ways. We'll talk a little more about this when we get to modifying the Java and XML files a little later.